you know, like he said, he was persistent with me. He never gave up. And I always knew that there was something there, but I was very distracted at the time and decided, once the pandemic hit, that I wanted to do this full time. And so I removed all the distractions and with little savings I had, I just went all in. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. And failure's not an option. So, you know, and it's been a great ride so far. So, I'm a very different person than I was when I came into this business, and even few years before that. I was very closed-minded, not really open-minded to learning new things. Thought I was, getting to the peak of my career and not as marketable. Very scared to take any kind of risk. Wanted stability, wanted security. But, it was interesting to see my evolution the last 2, 3 years, even 5 years, on how I changed my mindset and how I got my mindset even stronger. And that's what's carried me through this business, because some days are rocks and some days are diamonds. And so I'm always reading, I'm always developing the mindset. And I think that that's very important. So I'm a big follower of, I know Lawrence and I talked about a different book I was going to read, but I thought that this topic was pretty interesting. I'm a follower of T. Harv Eker. I don't know if anyone of you are familiar, but he wrote The Millionaire Mindset. And so he does a great topic, or a great webinar series on happiness. And so, we all have a different definition of what happiness is. And what he said was really profound. He says, you're happy until you make yourself unhappy. So, I thought about that and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Because we put a condition on our happiness a lot of times. We say, well, I'm going to be happy if I make this amount of money, or I'm going to be happy if my spouse does this, or I'm going to be happy if this circumstance happens. But if you put a condition on your happiness, you're never going to be happy, because you're always going to be waiting for that next condition. And so that's why I believe a lot of people, you see a lot of people and they seem successful on the outside, but you talk to them and they are really unhappy. And I know there's a lot of spiritual and maybe religious things that go into that. And I'm a firm believer in that, that there's, a strong element to that. But for the most part, people are attaching a condition, a circumstance, a person, whatever the case may be, to their happiness. And so they become unhappy. He talks about 6 elements, shocking, he calls them shocking truths about happiness. And so he says the first shocking truth is happiness is natural. Okay, so we're born with our true self and we're born with our false self. We have 2 selves that we battle. And in our mind, we battle these selves every day. So our true self is what we're born with, who we are, when we were born, that's our true self. And then we have this false self. And the false self is our environment, and how our environment and people have changed us. Maybe our parents told us that, we had to get good grades, get a good job, and then we'll be set for life, and type of that employee mindset. But, we all know that that's not true. And so you have a higher self, which is your true self, and you have a lower self, which is your false self. And your higher self, staying at that level, is what's going to help what you manifest come true. right? So we want to stay away from that false self. We want to stop thinking, negatively and all those thoughts that we used to think. We need to just put those aside and fill ourselves with good thoughts. And so, our conditioned mind or our false mind, we want to be in that survival mechanism, right? We want to feel safe, but we know that we don't grow when we're in that safe mode. And so I thought that was very interesting. The second point he talks about, happiness must be unconditional. And I talked a lot about that before. We can't attach a condition to happiness, or we'll never be happy, right? If I get this level in, Farm X and New Skin, I'll be happy. I reach Ruby, I'll be happy. I reach Team Elite, I'll be happy. But we have to always be, we can't settle for just reaching our goals. We have to always be setting new goals. And that's how societies collapse. That's how successful people collapse, is because they reach a certain level of success and then they coast, or they start going backwards and they start sabotaging their success. And that's why you see a lot of these fall from graces, because we have this natural sense of this, conditioned mind to fall back to that false sense of security, and we sabotage ourselves. And so we just have to be mindful of that once we reach a goal or a success, we have to set that next goal. Otherwise, you're going to sabotage yourself if you're not continuing through that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Lawrence, I'm talking a lot here. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was going to actually. Yeah, but okay, so it's flowing well. So here's the thing. When you just on the first couple of points that you mentioned, the Dalai Lama talks about the state of unsatisfactoriness. And, you're talking about happiness, unsatisfactoriness, and so on. So they kind of go hand in hand. And this is why the crux of, in my opinion, everything are those three questions that I can always come back to. Who are you? How well do you know yourself? And what do you want? Because if you don't know what you want, you're going to be scrambling all your life and you're never going to be satisfied because you don't know what you want. So that's the one thing. The other thing, when you talk about the higher level and lower level of ourselves, we've always talked about, there's a book called Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. And he has these two egos, two people in his mind. One is a positive one and one is a negative one. And the question is, it's like you have two wolves. One's a good wolf and one's a bad wolf. Which is the wolf that's going to survive? And people say, oh, the good one or the bad one. No, the one you feed. So if you feed the wolf and it's the negative one, that's going to be your result. If you feed the positive wolf, in other words, the positivity in your mind, if you feed that all the time, that's what will grow. So, our satisfactoriness, our happiness and everything depends on being able to feed that positivity all the time. And as you said, some days are rocks, some days are diamonds. That's the way life is. But we've got to be able to know ourselves to overcome those hiccups and those hurdles. And then unconditional that you were talking about, perfect. That's exactly, if you look at a dog will come, you come home and the dog will wag his tail or her tail. He's just happy little thing, because it's an unconditional love that the dog has. It's not, it's not because it's mealtime. It's going to be happy whatever time you see it. So I'm going along with you, John. I'm loving what you're saying. So carry on.
Okay, great. So the third shocking truth about happiness is, he said happiness must be independent. So a good example of this is social media. We see these people, pictures, and people are laughing, they're having a good time, And we associate happiness with fun and laughing, but really happiness is independent. Laughing is laughing, fun is fun, and happiness is happiness. So we can't look at that as it's an illusion, right? When people are sitting around joking, happy, having fun, going here, going there, that's independent of happiness. Happiness is happiness, and having fun is having fun. So true happiness stands on its own, right? And so, that's what we have to keep into perspective. The fourth shocking truth is happiness can only exist right now. Happiness doesn't exist in the future, the past. It happens in the present, right? It's you can only feel happy right now. And so you just have to practice being happy now, right? So the fifth shocking truth is happiness must be clearly defined, right? You must clearly define what happiness means to you. Everybody has their own definition of happiness. Mine's different than Lawrence's and Mike's and whoever, the other leaders on this call and everyone else that's on this call. So, we all have a different definition of happiness. And, we have to be satisfied with a certain level of achievement. You can't be always wishing for more. It's about not what you need, it's about what you want. And that's why we get trapped. We get trapped in our mind about what we need and what we want. And so we need to focus on what we want, and that's what will make us happy. If we focus on what we need, that's going to make us unhappy. And so, go ahead, Lawrence.
No, I was going to say, so what the want to need thing, of course, that's essential, what you need to have. But even if you make it something that is fun, in other words, if you look at something that you need to have and you make it a problem and say, oh my gosh, I got to have this, then it becomes an issue, it becomes a problem. But if you look at what you need, I always say that the size of the challenge is directly proportional to the emotion with which we see it. So if we see something that we need and it's a problem, then it's going to be a challenge. Then it's an emotional problem. But if you look at something that you need or that you want as something that is, if you look at it in a positive way, in a fun way, then it isn't such an issue. It isn't such a problem. So I wanted to just mention a couple of things. I think we're going on time here. So the important thing on our business here, which we're looking at with this mindset, which is all about mindset, but it's what this Sundar Pichai said from Google: get better results faster. That's what we're looking for in our business. So we're trying to understand the people we're talking with, not to. The people that we are engaging with. How you make them feel will determine how well they respond. Tony Robbins, talks about making everybody a raving fan. And actually that is part of what our mission is. Our mission is to make ourselves raving fans of ourselves first. That's the first person we've got to engage, is us, me. I've got to feel good about myself. I've got to be confident. I've got to know that, wow, I'm really good, but I've also got to be really humble, because there's a fine line between being arrogant and being sure and having swagger, if you will, but being humble. So this is what it is, and it's about how you make the other people feel. And if you feel good about you, you'll make the other people feel good about themselves. It can be a mirror. Acknowledge the positive, even even if the effort, excuse me, acknowledge the effort, even if the result wasn't positive. So if somebody tries really hard and the result was dismal, don't sort of go there and say, oh my God, your result was terrible. You know, you could say your result needs to be improved, but my gosh, you really did try, and this is how we can tweak it, and this is how we can help, and this is how we can support you. So it's about the mindset of knowing, of letting everybody know that you care. There's this old saying, you know, people don't care how much you know until you let them know how much you care. That's, you know, we talk about it, it's lip service, but put it into action. That's what it's about. It's about making people the team. It's about the team. It's about, you know, the team is only as strong as the weakest link. So if we support the team as a team effort, and we're doing this now in honestly in PharmaNext, NewsKin, we've achieved a level of camaraderie. Everybody on this call is not in my team, not in your team, not in Mike's team, not in Dan's team. We're all in different teams. And yet, this is what's exciting. We're able to help one another by supporting one another to achieve whatever it is that we want. So I briefly, before I forget, I want to mention something. Steve Moore and Scott Bennett have worked really hard in continuing to tweak and see what we can do better, what the company can do better, how we can help the people that have scanners and that are in our business, how we can help them more. And I'll leave it to you, but on Monday morning at 9:30, please get everybody onto Scott Bennett's call at 9:30, because Steve Moore and Scott Bennett will be explaining some really interesting new offers that they've managed to get from the company to help us with what Google was talking about, getting better results faster. John, is there anything else you have? I'm looking at the time. We've got another minute or
Sure. I just wanted to finish up. The last one is happiness is a choice, right? We choose to be happy, or we choose to be unhappy. So just wanted to make sure I got all 6 in there. So no, I appreciate the time and being on the call. And
so John, tell me briefly, how did you've had incredible turnouts on many of the calls that we have. We have a call and you're the guy who's got more people on the calls. You've got more interest from the people that are on the calls. You had a blowout month last month. How did you do that?
Well, you know, just belief and consistency, just sticking with the plan, not trying to deviate and go away from it, but, you know, following what everyone else that was successful has done. And, you know, I wanted to do a training call for people, since we, you know, are only doing the forum quarterly. I figured that was too much time in between to get people up and going. And so I decided to start something for people that wanted to really be, you know, engaged and successful and really, you know, take this seriously. And it's been a great success. We've been doing it since January, and you know, I'm getting some great feedback, and it's helping a lot of people get to the next step, right? Because I think, you know, they get signed up, they become a distributor, and then they're like, now what, right? And so we need to guide people. We need to be great leaders and just guide and show people what they need to do, and just break it down and make it simple. And that's what we're doing.
And you've done a really phenomenal job on being able to go through step by step, explaining what to do, because that's a very big part of all this is, you know, we all see the bigger picture, but where's the first step and where's the second, and how do I get to first base? And I think this is something that you do very well. And in fact, in Healthcare Alliance on guides, if everybody goes on there, and there's all of these steps that we need to take. They're all in there, but they're innate. So what we've got to do is put some feeling into it, so that, and this is what John has done. Dan Burke has done an incredible job of expanding on the getting started on, or the whole getting started booklet, which was initially started by Steve Moore and Scott Bennett. And so it's now become a really good handbook for us to go through. And what we need to do then is to have somebody like John or your upline, whoever it is, to go through it with you on a sharing basis. It's not just go to page 1 and do and follow the system. No, how do we follow the system? How is the best way? How can I get over this mental hiccup that I have about that particular issue? And this is what John has perfected. And Michael Cook and Dan Burke, same thing. They've perfected the empathy part of this business, where we are able to reach people, to get them to go to their, a better efficiency and understanding of themselves and their business. John is a typical case in point. Michael is another one. Dan's another one. These people have excelled now in getting to understanding, implementing, and multiplying this business. And this is what it's about. It's a business about duplication. I don't know if anybody's got anything else. John, if you've got any other thing you've got, we're on time here. I don't know what we're doing. Anybody else? Anybody? John?
I don't have anything else unless somebody wants to share something, a gain or anything that.
Anybody else got anything?
Well, hey, I want to thank you, Lawrence, for bringing John onto the call, because I think we've all been kind of watching John and experiencing interface with him and finding what a fantastic guy he is. And it's just great to hear that he's experiencing his own success. And I wish him the best. And I think this call has just been excellent about conveying how the broader community and team can just create the kind of synergy we need to really take this business on nationally. So, I thank you for your continued effort. You stick with us just like you did with John. It works.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. And in fact, it's believing, it's some of those principles that I talked about. It's in here. I believe in you. You're great. I believe in you. And if the person believes, we all do. And this is a good thing about a team here, where none of us, well, some of us are not going to benefit from anybody else's success. But this is what life's about. It's about, helping people reach their best levels, if it's possible to contribute to that. But everybody's perfect in the way they are. We just got to help them bring it out. And then they bring it out to the others too. So I don't want to go on about this, but anybody else got anything they want to add? If not, I don't want to keep everybody up. Michael, you got anything?
I just want to thank John. He got really good insights. I'm going to read that book. That one was not on my list until now. Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Okay. Nobody else has got anything. Thanks everybody for being on the call. We look forward to, please don't forget, Monday morning, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a really good call. And look, you guys, try and, if you get anything out of these calls, Dan and I were discussing this last week. It's important that we feel we're doing something that's constructive, that is helpful, that is useful. And we can only do that if we feel encouraged that we're actually doing something that's useful to everybody. So get your teams on these calls. Monday, 9:30 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. They are recorded. They're on Facebook, on Healthcare Alliance. And Monday will be a lot of interesting stuff from Steve Moore and from Scott Bennett. But get your team members on the call if you find any of this useful. And let us know. And if you've got any particular things you want us to go through, like, we're going to look at in depth the four principles of principles of execution. We're going to be doing those for the next couple of months in depth. So let us know how we can help you as well. So thanks everybody for being on the call. We look forward to seeing you on Monday morning at 9:30 Eastern.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, John.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks, John.